quickly touch also on another guideline that's available, and that is the Practice Guideline for Psychology Professionals working with sexually and gender diverse people. The first one was launched in 2017, and we just had our second edition launching this year in 2025. And this guideline is really also something that you can make use of. We have trained a lot of healthcare professionals in this field. We have trained doctors on this guideline and also social workers. And I'm quickly going to just look at the guidelines, scrolling fast through it. It's a lovely document that you can read. So our guideline 1 is adopt an affirmative stance. The key idea is that diversity in gender and sexuality is part of a normal human variation. So how do we do that? We can use inclusive language, ask a person's pronoun, ask them what is their real name. Here we still use chosen name. Display affirming symbols or posters in waiting areas. Embed affirming assumptions into all assessments and case notes. And the question we can then ask ourselves is, how does my environment, where I already work, signal this affirmation? Guideline 2 looks at non-discrimination. The key idea is that no client should experience bias or exclusion in psychological services. So our actions that we need to take there is audit intake and admin materials for hetero and cis normative assumptions. Train all staff, including reception and admin, in inclusive practice and offer gender-neutral restrooms and signage. So if we look at our practices again, what hidden barriers might exist in my practice and how can I rectify this? Guideline 3 upholds self-determination. The clients are the expert on their own identities and goals. So we need to listen to our clients, and they must also be the leader when we walk with them this path. Use collaborative goal setting. Support client-led decisions and disclosure and transitioning. Resist imposing diagnostic or binary expectations. And our reflection on this is, do I truly let my client lead? Or do I still try and dictate them or kind of maneuver them into a certain area? Guideline 4 looks at recognizing of normative social context. We know that gender and sexuality exist within cultural, legal, and institutional systems. My practice actions would be explore the client's cultural, faith, and community context, assess impacts of hetero and cis normativity on well-being, and discuss resilience strategies within family and community settings. And you'll see there, we again look there quite strongly at minority stress. The reflection there is, how do systems shape my client's experience? Not only in my practice, but also in the community, but even outside. How does our laws look? How does our human rights implications have on this? And how are we really positioning our trans and gender diverse clients? Guideline 5 explored intersectional discrimination. So we know that if our client is already struggling due to discrimination due to race or class or age, maybe have a disability, how does this intersect with their gender diversity? And if they also have a sexuality diversity, a sexual diversity, how does this intersect? So in the end, we need to integrate the intersectional analysis into case formulation, ask about social location and access to resources, and we need to tailor our intervention to clients' intersecting realities. So if I have a client that comes from a space where poverty is what is part of their life, that can't access the main hospital, how do I still serve my trans client? How do I make sure that they have the access that they need, for example, to gender affirming healthcare? And when I work with my client, do I just see them as, oh, they have a trans identity? Or do I see them as a person that is much more than just this being transgender? So, how do I recognize my person as a whole person? Guideline 6 is about counteracting stigma, prejudice, and violence. So, if my is from a gender minority, we know they're going to face structural and interpersonal harms. What is important then for us is to screen for minority, build with our clients coping and resilience skills, and never underestimate the resilience that's already there. Because we know that just to survive as a trans and gender diverse person, you already build up a lot of resilience. To come out as a gender diverse takes so much, and to live openly and freely your gender identity even more. So there's already so much resilience there, and don't underestimate that. Provide referrals to legal, advocacy, or crisis support. And we need to make sure that our practice challenges stigma. When we go to Guideline 7, we recognize a multiple development pathways. And I think this is very important to realize, is that one trans person's path is not the same as a second person's path. Some trans people want to access healthcare, others do not. Some people would like to access hormones, but not surgery. And people have diverse pathways. So there can be a fluidity and a change across the lifespan. And that is where we also start seeing, for example, with a minority of trans and gender diverse people, that they would detransition or retransition because they have much more fluidity in themselves. There's nothing wrong with detransition or retransitioning. It is just their life path. We need to avoid this rigid, you need to come out or you need to transition model. Some people would prefer to, for example, live undercover or just come out to certain people. And we as healthcare providers cannot push anybody at all into these spaces. We need to acknowledge unique journeys in children, youth, adults, and our elders. So the big question is, in your practice, do you really allow for evolving identities? Or do you rather want a person to kind of come to a space and say, this is my identity, let's fix it on this space, and there's no further development or growth? Guideline 8 looks at support of diverse families and relationships. We know that relationships and families can take many valid forms. We've already heard from Madeleine earlier that we need to explore a person, for example, if they want to have children, how they would like to build their family. So that is one aspect that we can explore. We can explore the idea of a chosen family, especially if a person is not welcome in their original family, or if they want to expand their family and have more people become part that's not necessarily blood related. We know that there are different queer family and couple counseling. We might want to also work with families to understand the person that is sexual or gender diverse, and how we do that. For some people, especially for our trans and gender diverse persons that has a partner, it is important for that partner also to work with their own identity. So let's say a person is in a lesbian relationship because they were assigned female at birth and their partner is also assigned female at birth, but they start transitioning. How do we then work with the partner that is cisgender, also exploring their own understanding of their sexuality as the person transition? So how do I affirm as a mental health care provider all forms of connection? Guideline 9 fosters social support and resilience. The key idea there is to connection and belonging to protect a person's. So how do I map and strengthen a client's social networks? How do I connect clients with LGBTQIA plus peer groups and affirming faith spaces? How do I build community-based resilience strategies? So where I work in KwaZulu-Natal, for us, we work on a part client, but it's also about their family workspaces. And how do we build the resilience strategy? How can I widen this circle of support? Guideline 10 looks at affirm diversity and resist normalization. It is so easy to say we all need to fit in one little box. We need to have this I am a female or male little box that we're going to tick. But that is not what it's all about. We do not correct. We do not normalize because we, in a space where we have realized that diversity is part of humanity. So we explicitly reject conversion or reparative therapy and practices. We do not try and normalize a person in the sense of, oh, you were assigned female at birth, so you are now a trans man. There's also asexual, intersex, non-binary, other gender identities. We need to ensure therapeutic goals are client-defined and not conformity-based, and we do need to respect difference in our practice. You struggle with practice to become self-aware and accountable. And if that means you need to go for ongoing supervision and self-reflection, that becomes very important. And even for us as a trans person, we need to do that. We need to acknowledge our values, conflicts, and refer appropriately when we struggle to deal with certain diversities. It's quite good to have a reflective journal and make sure that we need to be aware of our counter transferences and biases. And we also need to commit to continuous professional development. And today we're all busy with that already through this and trainings. We can update our resource list annually, join peer consultation or research networks, come and join the Professional Association for Transgender Health South Africa, PATHSA, where we have every month a webinar that trains us more in trans and gender diversity. And we need to make sure that we expand our competence yearly. So this is the PsySSA guidelines. I am also quickly going to look, and I hope we're going to manage this,